Afternoon, folks. Welcome along to the last panel discussion of the day. Today, this discussion, we're going to focus around ethical brand development and customer engagement. I'm joined on the stage by Michael Shaw, the founder and director of Vape TV and Vape Marketing. I'm joined also by Saeem Yazin, the director of Marketing and Digital with Philip Morris Management Services, and then Sal Yunus at the end there, the Global Sales Manager for Vico. Welcome along, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I suppose we jump into a couple of questions straight away. If we look, I suppose the biggest sort of topic at the moment is youth vaping. You know, a lot of critics outside of the industry would say that these products, not just disposables, maybe flavors and everything else as well in the vaping industry, they would say that these are marketed towards the youth and the young adults who have probably rejected cigarettes, you know. So I suppose the question, maybe we start with yourself, Sam, is that, you know, what is the industry doing to ensure that these products only get into the hands of smokers, and maybe what are we doing right and what are we not doing right, in your view?
So thanks for the question, Joe. I think, firstly, it's important to understand that from our position, smokers who are using cigarettes, the first and the best choice that they have is to quit smoking, right? But we also know that there are many others who will not quit smoking, and for them, a transition and a switch to a better alternative, which we are developing in Philip Morris with a multitude of different products, which is heat not burn, oral vaping products, and vaping products as well. We are providing consumers a lot of options to choose when it comes to switching from cigarettes to better alternatives. Now, we also know that over the next couple of years, by the end of 2025, WHO still estimates that there will be 1 billion smokers still using cigarettes. So I think it's very important that as an industry, we are providing these consumers, these adult smokers, the right information, the right knowledge about the options that exist when it comes to switching to a better product. When it comes to making sure that we have the right regulations which does not encourage usage of these products amongst the non-users of tobacco or nicotine products, or even youth. At Philip Morris, we have very, very clear, strict guidelines on how we should develop and sell our products to these audiences. First and foremost, we always keep in mind when it comes to our marketing activities that we should only be communicating to current existing adult cigarette or nicotine users. At no cost, we would ever communicate or market our products to unintended audiences like non-smokers or youth. We also make sure that we have clear guidelines when it comes to the channels that we communicate. So, for example, in our e-commerce channels, we make sure that we verify the consumer's age, when we are delivering and selling them products. In other channels where we advertise our products, we also ensure that responsibly they are 75% over the audience of 75% audience is over the legal age in that country. And also internally we have very clear marketing practices which we constantly adhere to and also constantly optimize to make sure that the controls that we are putting are implemented across different facets of our business. In some of those controls, we make sure, for example, we are adequately engaging and educating our trade partners to make sure that they understand that they should not be selling our products to youth because they're not intended for youth. We also make sure that when it comes to different regulatory bodies in the environments that we operate, they also understand and partner with us on how we can enforce certain controls across the industry. So I think the way we market, sell, partner with different stakeholders and regulators across the industry are absolutely vital when it comes to how we make sure that current cigarette smokers who do not quit have the right information about better alternatives, and on the other side, making sure that we are not advertising or selling our products to youth or any unintended audiences.
Very good. It's good to hear all the innovative ideas and things you're doing in relation to not, as you said, these products not getting into the hands of non-smokers or youth. Mike, if I come to you in relation to that, obviously you're in the business a long time. You're in the business since 2012 yourself. You had a vape shop, and now you have obviously the vape marketing. What, from your view, maybe UK point of view, or from when you worked in the shops, what do you feel is the issue in relation to youth? Do you think it's down to the retailer or the shop owner, or what more does the industry need to be doing to make sure this doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think a lot of it does lie with the retailers. I think the retailers are obviously looking for what product they can sell and how quickly they can sell it, maybe not considering who they're selling to. I think the brands themselves need to take some accountability, and that comes with the packaging, with the flavor profiles, with the kind of imagery that they're going to use and how they're going to market that product. We as an agency, we kind of try to steer people in the right direction for what we know is not frowned upon, and obviously not going to be an issue on a shelf with trading standards or attracting the wrong people. I mean, we've gone the full scale since 2012 of drink flavors and replicating cans of pop and replicating sweets and everything else. I mean, VGod will be one of the originals that has kept that type of branding that is more suitable for the adult market. They're not looking at trying to attract people. We all know that people will go on to vaping that might have gone on to smoking, so at a certain age they will naturally do that anyway. But it's trying to stop the people in school, trying to stop the pocket money spend, and trying to stop the the real attraction of the kids having the next kind of fad, be it a blue, a Mr. Blue, or whatever they want to call it,
slush, or whatever it might be,
that every kid in school wants to get hold of. I think when you look at brands like VGod that have kept the real kind of leisure lifestyle type brand, but in that type of category of an age group, 25 and above, that's the type of brands that we really want to be working with.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's definitely more onus on the retailers. I think that's where the sort of the problem stems from. Having proper age checks in place, carrying out age checks, random age checks as well. I suppose, Sal, same question to you, coming from your neck of the woods. What's your view on maybe the youth uptake in the US? I know sometimes these figures can be exaggerated a little bit as well, but what's your view on the industry or the sector in relation to this issue?
This issue has been an issue that we studied and we followed up with since we started in the business. VGod has been in the vape industry since 2013, and we saw it grow. We built the right approach for it, and what's good that the regulations has evolved along the way as well, which sent us in the right direction, because at the time the vape industry in general was a still brand new industry, and we wanted some direction as well. And now, if you look at it from the marketing perspective, that evolved a lot. From the warning labels to the age restrictions to now you see a lot of countries are regulating, which is something we actually like, because now there's structure in every country. Before it was kind of we're trying to lead the way and get a slap on the wrist, then learn from it to go forward. Now you see like Dubai. If someone wants to register in this country, you go to ASMA, you speak to them, you follow the instructions, you know what to do, what to not do. So that's good. And that's something we watch grow since the beginning of the vape industry till today, from social media and all the warnings and all the age restrictions to, for example, the packaging. I personally always, like you mentioned, we try to target the adults, the current smokers that want to switch the habit. That's always been the slogan of ours, switch the habit. And to put, like, for example, candies and chocolates and stuff, that's not what we want. We want to approach the smoker who's looking at it, because the main goal is, I know we're all in a business and everyone here to make money and all, but the main purpose is switching the habit. I personally, from my personal experience, I have a lot of family that, for example, 30 years smoking cigarettes, and they've always wanted to ask me. They were curious, and I told them, here you go, try it out. And now they haven't smoked in a while, so to them they're happy. And I think another thing that we as brands for the whole vape industry can capitalize on is, for example, programs to educate the kids that it's not a product for you. I've seen some of the documentaries. I don't know if you guys watched it on Netflix, Broken. It mentioned something about the vape industry. And in the UK, they have in the high school bathrooms, do not vape, do not use the nicotine products. Those are things, at the end of the day, we do want to enforce, and we want to let them know that this is not something that targets you, because our consumer is the current smoker. And like you mentioned earlier, if someone vapes or smokes, if your first option to quit them both, that's what I would advise you to do. So it's an evolving thing, and the regulation is helping us, sending us in the right direction. And if there's anything else we can learn from the experience and the way we came till today, we're always looking to evolve and just get to the right consumer and protect the youth.
You know, I suppose looking from my own viewpoint, we have obviously we have our own factory. We have 70 retail shops in Ireland. You know, we're probably one of the biggest vape brands in the country. And we're doing a schools program now ourselves, you know, because the problem is that when people hear the word harmless, a lot of youth think that it's totally harmless. We say less harmful. They think that there's no harm in it. And I think that's one of the big miscommunication and misconception really with the young people. As you said, it's nearly like a fashion accessory now, unfortunately, for some of them. But again, we need to put it into perspective, I think, as well. When we look at the stats, is there youth using vape products? Yes, there is. But when you look at the stats, the number of non-smokers of the youth, it's in single-digit percentage, you know. So sometimes you need to have a perspective on it as well. You know, Ash UK do the studies all the time, and they show that I think it's less than 2% of young people who vape are current or are non-smokers. You know, so again, I think we need to put it into perspective. And my own viewpoint as well, and I said it earlier on today, is that we have more people vaping in the world than we've ever had. When I was a kid, everyone smoked. It was cool to have a smoke and go behind the school wall and bum a cigarette off somebody. But now more adults are smoking. So maybe, I'm not saying we accept it. I'm not saying it should happen. It shouldn't. But I think there is going to be more, not youth, there's going to be probably more people looking at vaping because there's more adults vaping. I think it's a natural thing to happen. Leads me to my next question, same for you again, is in your view, what would you see as some of the ethical training steps maybe that brands can do with staff or teams, or, you know, what would you like to see maybe in this sector when it comes to ethical training, let's call it that?
I think from the perspective of Philip Morris, what we try to make sure is that across our entire value chain, we are educating our commercial staff, our frontliner staff, our retailers about the products that we are selling. For example, in the case of heat-not-burn products that we sell, we help them understand what is the technology behind it, why it causes less harmful chemicals, which is significantly less compared to cigarettes. So we help them understand what the reason to believe is on why this product is better than continued smoking. So that if a consumer comes and asks the same question, they're in a position to answer some of these questions to consumers. We make sure that when it comes to a lot of the advertising materials that we are developing, they're again intended only for adult smokers who are using cigarettes or other nicotine products. At different outlets that we are putting these materials, which are again all intended for adult CC or cigarette consumers, we make sure that we also have signage over there where it's written that it is prohibited to underage or youth selling, and it's only for adult smokers. On all our messaging or our communication, we have all the health warnings, which helps consumers understand factually what this product is. Even if you're selling heated tobacco products, which is on average 90 to 95% produces less harmful chemicals, we would still say that this product is not risk-free, and nicotine is addictive. So I think factual information to consumers at every step of the way, from the time when they see the first communication to the time that they use it, or when they buy it, or even when they adopt it at a later stage, I think across the entire consumer experience and journey, at every different touch point, if you're informing consumers with the facts, I think it adds a lot of value in making sure that your offer is credible, that your offer is honest, fair, in terms of delivering the information to the consumers.
Yeah, and I take that point on board as well. My other question is, as you said, it's about giving, as you said, giving the people the information. You know, personally, I find that a lot of governments are not very forthcoming with the information. Like, I'll give you an example at home. In Ireland, there's no recommendation for vaping. There's nothing on the HSE. There's nothing on cancer.ie, nothing. Then you look at the UK, Cancer UK, Ash UK, you know, it's not only saying vaping, it's saying heat not burn, heated tobacco, nicotine pouches, NRT. It gives them the toolbox. Where me, again, personally, I'm fighting a battle all the time because they won't even mention vaping. And I find that what they say is, you know, the common disagreement or discussion we have is that they say we don't know the long-term effects of vaping. But they put a full stop then, you know, and I say, well, that's not the comparison. The comparison is against the long-term effects of cigarette combustible smoking, you know?
Correct. And I think here is where we need to have a very common sense, pragmatic approach towards cigarette smoking, right? I think across the different stakeholders, whether it's us, manufacturers, the distributors, the sellers, the governments, the regulators, we should align to a common sense approach towards how do we stop cigarette smoking and switch consumers as fast as possible to better alternatives. And as we all know, that cigarette smoking causes combustion, which causes all the harmful chemicals. Now, we have a portfolio of heated tobacco products, nicotine pouches, and vaping, which none of them obviously causes combustion, and therefore they're significantly better than continued smoking. So I think over here, the regulators need to have a common sense approach on how they differentiate cigarette regulations, which should be the most restrictive because they produce the most harm, compared to these better smoke-free alternatives that today exist in the market. And they need to apply some of these regulations vis-a-vis the harm that each of these categories sort of constitute when it comes to the experience to the consumers. So I think if the governments or the regulators and different stakeholders, they follow the science behind the products, they understand what it delivers, why it delivers, and then develop the right regulations to address some of these science-based facts, I think it will be a much better and a win-win situation for not just for the consumers, but also the society as a whole.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I hope it happens sooner rather than later. Mike, just coming to you, and I'm leading on to another question now in relation to, obviously, we're going to stick with the ethical things that we should be doing in the industry. You know, in your opinion, what do you think vape brands, like the owner of the brand and maybe the retailers, could be doing, I suppose, better to help lower the youth access? Like we spoke here around vape shops having more responsibilities, but do you think there should be more of an onus on manufacturers, maybe with product design or things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the product design, as we said, the packaging, the messaging, but that also flows through to the promotion of the product as well. So I think, you know, looking at the areas where you're promoting it, we're very focused on. We understand that all of the brands we work with some of the biggest brands in the industry. They want to promote their products. They want to get their name out there. They want, you know, brand awareness as well as, I mean, sales really are an afterthought. It's more about, you know, getting the brand out there and making people aware of the company. What we try to do is lead them into areas where we know we're not going to be in amongst children. To give you an example, we had one of our clients asking to be in a shopping mall as a pop-up stand. They were saying, we want to do it on a Saturday because it's the busiest day. And we were saying, no, Saturdays are family days. That's when you're going to have children there with the parents. They're not at school. You know, we need to just think about, you know, obviously we want to help them promote. We want to help them, you know, build their brand and become, you know, an industry leader. But we just need to be very focused of how we're doing that and what areas we're doing it in. The UK is becoming such an open, you know, market for being able to promote outside of the industry. Back when I first started it and TPD kicked in, you know, it was a trade environment only. Now you can be at festivals, you can be at concerts, you can do nightclub events, you can be part of sporting associations, part of the community. I think that there is ways of promoting vaping as not just to purchase the product, but also as what vaping is there for, as we said, which is a smoking cessation tool, getting people off the cigarettes, stopping obviously people from getting cancer, and, you know, supporting the type of areas within the community and everything else that, you know, have a touch point with this. So we're talking to charities, we're talking to, you know, lots of different, you know, people within the community and within different areas outside of vaping, you know, where we can promote the product in an adult-friendly way, you know, always over an 18 environment, always over Challenge 21, but in that environment where people can actually see the brand, you know, get some education on the brand, find out, you know, what's different about them, what their USPs are, and yeah, promote it in a ethical way, I suppose is the right way of saying it.
Yeah, very good. It's good to hear that.
Yeah.
Sal, same question to you, maybe just a different way. Obviously, I know your brand, and as you said, your branding is on point with the age demographic and that you're targeting, smokers that you're targeting with your brand. You know, what do you see the likes of not your competition, other manufacturers? What do you see that they are doing wrong, if you know what I mean, in terms of, I don't like using the word attracting youth, but youth becoming attracted to their products because of design or how they market them?
I would say in like today, in our industry today, I see a lot of most of the big brands, the leading brands, are following the right steps. However, in the past, we've seen some brands that were, I would say, financially focused, and they were marketing aggressively, no warning labels, social media, YouTube, festivals,
TikTok,
everything that brings the young youth. Those were some of the brands that we try and, when a brand is your competitive, you're always put in the same category as them. We try to distinguish ourselves from that. And that's actually was a breaking point for the VGOT brand to, when we put on our social media, it's never direct marketing to the brand. We put an age restriction option on our even Instagram account. We stopped posting on a news feed. We started focusing more on stories. So and the warnings and the age verification was one of the main things, because we saw some brands, they were lacking that process. And for us, we wanted to lead by example of doing the total opposite of promoting the age restriction, promoting the warning, because in the end of the day, when big brands lead in the vape industry, we all represent each other. So it's good when you see all the brands doing the same thing and it's the right thing. I wouldn't go learn from someone who's doing it wrong. If anything, I'm going to show them how to do it right. Because if a big brand in the vape industry gets, for example, punished or hurt, that makes the whole industry look wrong. And that's why we try to promote and work with other brands and see how we can present it the right way. When we have new hires, we give them a thorough training of the market, of the vape industry in general, our brand, and the image we want to portray in specific, and get them in on the regulations of every country. Because, you know, now every region has different, like Europe got the TPD, in the Middle East, they actually adopted a lot of the concepts of the TPD with a little tweaks. So we try to kind of give them an education in every way and make sure when they're representing the brand, they're representing it in the most ethical way, focused on the right consumer, and to make sure that it's staying away from the youth and the bad image and all the stuff. Because as I said in the beginning, in the end of the day, all the brands, all of us here, we represent one industry. And our goal is the same. And the more we can learn from one another and work with each other, we will always make the industry grow in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And sometimes at home, when I see vape shops selling certain products that they shouldn't be selling, you know, you would say to them, listen, you shouldn't be doing, you know, you really shouldn't be selling that product. It's cartoon or whatever. And they say, go mind your own business. But as you said, people forget it's not as if they're going to just give out to him. It affects the whole sector. So we all need to be doing things the right way. Unfortunately, we don't. Like any sector in the world, there's always some rogue retailers, as we call them, who don't do things the right way. This leads me on to customer engagement, and Sam, I'm going to ask you your views on this. When I look at customer engagement, I understand about the not being able to market, obviously, youth and all that, but do you not think that we should be allowed to market more to the smokers, to the adult smokers? You know, somebody smoking, they've been smoking for 20 or 30 years, you know, they like it, it's theirs, it's their crutch, it's their habit. You know, I remember Clive Bates saying it a few years ago, we need to make it sexy to move from smoking to vaping. We need to make it look inviting and glamorous. I'm not saying I'm not saying we go, I suppose my question is, do you not think that we should be allowed to do a bit more to make it more, attractive for smokers to come over? Or is there a balance there somewhere?
I think there is definitely a balance there as well. We know, at least from independent data, for example, if I look at so we need to strike a balance between we are providing the right factual information to current cigarette smokers to convince them to switch to a better alternative, while at the same time making sure that we're not in any way targeting or marketing to unintended audiences like youth or people who haven't started cigarette smoking. Now, at least on the one side of things, we know that, for example, there was a Tottori University in Japan which did an independent survey. And the conclusion or the results of the survey stated that post the launch of our heated tobacco product IQOS in Japan, total tobacco and nicotine usage has declined. And it did not provide a gateway for youth or non-smokers to enter into tobacco or nicotine usage. So I think, at least from our experience in Japan and in other markets that we also are present, we can say that first, the way we are marketing and advertising our products is not causing any uptick in adoption of these products by these unintended audiences. Now, when it comes to how do we make sure that the people who are still using cigarettes, how do we convince them? I think it's important that, again, they go back to the science and the facts behind the science. So in a way where we communicate to our consumers, we engage them, we make sure that we provide them all the necessary information about not just the benefits, but also the science behind the products, which helps them understand the cause and effect, which is, in the case of cigarette smoking, because it causes combustion, and combustion is the cause of all the harmful chemicals, because in our heated tobacco products, there is no combustion, and in fact, we heat tobacco to release nicotine and flavor, it helps them understand that, okay, this is why I still get true tobacco flavor and satisfaction, but without all the bad things like tar and all the harmful chemicals. Of course, this is not fully risk-free, but again, this is 90 to 95% less harmful than cigarettes. Now, on top of that, to make sure that we provide consumers a journey and a hand-holding through their adoption of these better alternatives, we make sure we also have certain programs, right? So we have got, for example, IQOS coaches, where consumers who are entering into the category, we engage with them on a regular interval to make sure that even though they might be facing some challenges switching from a 20-year-old cigarette habit to a completely different experience, that we help them understand again that why is it different, and why still the benefits of switching from cigarettes to a better alternative completely outweighs some of the transitionary challenges that you might be facing. So we also handhold them over the course of their adoption period to make sure they understand, again, the science, the challenges that they might face, and some of the options that they have as well, to make sure that even though they don't like flavor X or flavor Y or SKU X, whatever, they at least know that there are different things to choose from, and all of these things are better than continued smoking.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Mike, I suppose just put a different twist on that question in relation to advertising, marketing, and attracting smokers. How far should we go? How far should we be allowed to go? I know restrictions are in place with TPD anyway, but as I said, to ask you the same question, should we not be allowed, make them look more attractive to smokers, or do you think that it's just attracting non-smokers or young people? What's your view on the balance?
I think it's education is a big part of it. People need to understand. People still think to this day that vaping is just as harmful as smoking. There's been the UK is obviously very pro-vaping. We have a lot of initiatives, a lot of support from the government, the NHS, and there is a lot of education out there. But it's not that easy to come across unless you're embedded within the industry and you happen to notice an article because it's something that you're interested in. I think we could be doing a lot more to educate a lot of the TPD restrictions that we have mean in-home advertising is not possible.
Yeah.
But I do feel that that is the environment that we need to be getting the educational pieces in. I think the branding of the majority of the companies and the kind of ethos of the majority of the companies that have been in the beginning and still here now, they're good enough to attract people. They're good enough to, make somebody want to have a nice sleek device or a good device that lasts an amount of time or a nice, flavored liquid that suits their profile. So I think the companies do it very well, but I think we need to be allowed to get in front of people better. We're so restricted to how we can do that. We can't advertise that, vaping is a smoking cessation tool. We're not allowed to do it, but it's just ridiculous because it is a smoking cessation tool. And the government can say it, and the government can, offer to give 1 million free vapes away to support that.
Yeah.
But then we can't actually advertise that on behalf of our clients. So there's a lot of grey areas between TPD and what we should actually be able to say. So I think education, getting in front of people in a home environment, saying the right things, and using this, using all of the reports and all of the research and everything that we've got, actually being able to use that is key.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. As you said, it's about getting the facts to the people, and science facts. As I said earlier on, the only thing that beats science is better science. Yeah. Not my opinion, not your view, not some anecdotal story. Sal, I suppose same question to you in relation to marketing and trying to attract smokers. With customer engagement. Do you think we should be allowed to do a bit more, or do you think it's probably stepping over a line maybe too much?
Now that's a sensitive topic in a way, and for example, us VGOD, we had the strongest social media platform in the industry. Our YouTube channel had 1 million subscribers, and believe it or not, we took a decision that we stopped our channel, which even YouTube reached out to us, told us, "What are you doing?" It's just it became, because we're a vape brand, it became so hard to make a video and not commit a mistake. And the thing is, we received a warning from YouTube, but the thing is, there was no explanation of what's the warning about, and we didn't want to continue because we knew that if we don't have like instructions of what to do, what to not do, then we're gonna commit the mistakes again, and then we're gonna be shut down. So we decided to take that off 3-4 years ago. And now, if we want to bring it back, we want to bring it back as maybe an educational channel rather than it is a promotion for VGOD or products or whatever. So that's something we're kind of looking into to try to do it in the most proper way to capitalize on the following we have there. That's it's a strong channel. So that's something we've been looking over. We haven't got it back in business, but we're trying to look at it in a way of an educational way. But the education about the vape industry, when it comes to social media now, Instagram, YouTube, all this stuff, to be honest with you, it's too restricted, which I understand why, because the problem is Instagram is not for example, a platform that tells you it's an 18 and over platform. So you have to follow a lot of steps. You have to make your private account, and if someone wants to follow you, you have to verify their age. So it becomes more of a hard thing to promote, because at the end of the day, we want to show our brand, but in the same time, we don't want to, it could be understood in 2 different ways, because the kids have access to it. So in my opinion, I think the best branding approach that we're having now are these trade shows. These trade shows, you come here, I believe the way they're put together, they're well organized. Everyone is an adult here, and that's your potential consumer. Doing more education over here, making more involvements and engagements with the consumers over here, teaching our distros, teaching our vape shops of following the right steps when they're approaching their consumer as well. These events are the educational and the way that we can help people switch the habit. And to be honest with you, the regulation is evolving on a yearly basis, and we just try to learn the right approach without approaching the youth or doing it wrong. but in the same time, still finding our specific consumer and helping them switch the habit. So it's a sensitive area that we always got to be cautious, and we just got to learn and grow from.
Yeah, no, it is. I suppose this leads me to another question, which is probably off this topic a little bit, but you just brought it into my head there, is that, you know, my view is that a lot of governments, a lot of regulators act on the precautionary principle. You know, oh, we don't know the long-term effects, but we don't know the long-term effects of anything when it's at the start. That's it, no matter what it is. We didn't know the long-term effects of a COVID vaccine, but we made it as quick as we could and we get it out there. Was there side effects? More than likely. Did we have long-term data on what that vaccine might have an effect? We didn't care. People were dying. You know, and I give the example is that during COVID, obviously COVID was a horrible thing for across the world. I think it's 2.6 to 3 million people passed away with COVID. Same year, 7.8 million people died of cigarettes, but there's no one running around looking for a vaccine for tobacco. I still think vaping, I heard somebody mention that last week, vaping is a vaccine for tobacco. I pretty like that one, you know. I suppose sorry, that's a long story to say. My question is, you know, when do governments say, okay, we have enough science, don't give us any more, we believe you, we know it's 95% less harmful or 96 or whatever, it's fine. Like, when do you think that, you know, they have enough science to go, okay, you know what, let's endorse this? I know the UK are very pro-vaping, but you know, many countries are not. So I'm just wondering, when is enough where they go, okay, maybe from your experience with...
I think that understanding is happening gradually over time, depending on different regulators all over the world. From our perspective, we have over 500 publications in a publicly accessible website where all our scientific studies, the results are already available, and they're all peer-reviewed. And today, more than 50 official or government bodies have actually validated the science and the results of our published articles. For example, in the case of US FDA, they have authorized IQOS to be marketed as a product which does, because it does not burn, it causes less harmful chemicals, and therefore it is better for the protection of public harm, right? So they have authorized that based on the science that we have shared and they have validated. So, and I think similar to other governments, there is understanding as well of this. And our point of view on this one is sort of very clear, right? Which goes back to the point I was making earlier, which is the most restrictive regulation should be on the most harmful product, which is cigarettes.
Yeah.
And everything else should be regulated based on the science and the facts behind those products. I think over time, there is progressive steps taken by different regulators. I think it's just a matter of time when they also see other governments doing that. For example, again, I mean, in Japan, since the introduction of IQOS almost 9.5 years ago, tobacco and nicotine usage has declined. And a significant number of consumers in Japan have moved and switched completely from cigarettes to better alternative heat-not-burn products that we have with the IQOS product. And also globally, if I just put the context as well, by the end of March this year, we had 25.8 million users globally who were using our IQOS product, out of which 18.5 million consumers have completely switched to IQOS and they do not use cigarettes. So I think a combination of facts like these, common sense principles and approach towards science, less prejudices from the past, I think will help the governments to take the right and the regulators to make the right steps in time to understand that these are better alternatives in general for the society.
Yes, no, I agree with you. Mike, I suppose from your point of view, we're probably going to finish up soon. If you had now I feel like not asking you this question because the UK is probably one of the most progressive countries in the world when it comes to vaping, you know. If you had a magic wand, I suppose, looking at the vape industry, what would you like to see happen, or what do you think could be better? No, not just the youth or recyclable. Is there anything else that you could say? Yeah, maybe more government endorsement. I don't think you could get any more now, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more.
I think I'd like to see. I think to echo what you were saying before. I think we've just all been put into this TPD, or whatever the alternative is in other countries, and everything is based on a cigarette. That's kind of where we've been pigeonholed and where it's been, put. I can't. The amount of frustrating media articles I see that are totally non-educated, the stuff that people seem to, they put us into this singular, area of tobacco. For me, I would like to see a separation of, the products that actually are, you've got your NRT, which you can buy readily available anywhere. You've got your vaping, obviously, products. You've got the heat not burn and other things. And there's areas where we shouldn't be all included in the same. We shouldn't be regulated in the same way. We should be able to educate and, use the research and the things that we've had from Public Health England and the government and everything else, to support that this is a smoking cessation, option. And, the other thing is as well is to bear in mind, and nobody likes talking about this, but you mentioned it before. I started smoking at 16, which was the legal age to smoke back then. As soon as I got my passport, I was going buying cigarettes when I turned 16. My parents before me did the same. Their parents before them did the same. We're now in a position where everyone's saying about, vaping should only be for people that are trying to quit smoking, but it's also, the fact is these people either be it a cool thing or, something they just naturally do because it's a progression into adulthood. The fact that people aren't going on to smoking and they are going on to these other alternatives, we should look at that as a positive as well. It shouldn't just be a case of smoking is only there for people that, vaping is only there for people that have already smoked. It should be the people that would go into smoking if vaping wasn't, which it wasn't, obviously less than 15 years ago, it wasn't an option. So everyone just had the smoking. So for me, just to be more transparent, be able to share all of the education that we have, to be able to market the brands with the education and the support of the research we've done, and just try and take a little bit of the stigma away from this industry and, pigeonholing it with smoking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. As we used to say at home, when TPD was coming in, everyone, I think everybody was fighting for it to have its own category, similar to cosmetics and have its own sector. But unfortunately, we're still tied in with it. Sal, I'm going to leave the last word to you. In relation to the industry, magic wand, something like passing on from what Mike said there, what would you like to see in the industry? Or what would you like to see more of? Would you like governments to do more, more endorsement of vaping? Or
To be honest with you, what I would like to see is, for example, in the United States, I believe they should learn from Europe when it comes to regulations.
yeah,
That's one thing I would like to see. Follow TPD, but have some regulations. That would be very nice. But the fact that we're seeing a lot of countries are adopting the regulations and they're putting in instructions for the brands to register and grow it, that grows. We have a lot of countries that are coming on board. In the past 2 to 3 years, look in the Middle East. UAE led the way, and now you see a lot of countries follow. We're trying to see this in more regions. There's a lot of rumors that Latin America, some countries are actually, I received from Venezuela instructions that are looking to regulate. This is all good news, because now the brands have a path to follow and regulate. And the more we regulate, the more we get legitimized in every country. And that's amazing. I love regulations. As soon as you tell me we're getting regulated there, I'm like, that's a win for the industry, because that means we're getting legitimized, we're growing. And at the end of the day, we're just gonna stay on top of it. We've been in the industry for a while, all of us. We are educators as well. We try to help as much as we could. It could start from a friend to clients at the show to events and with your peers and all. So we're just gonna kind of keep learning, keep growing, keep staying on top of the science, and keep staying on top of the regulation involvement. And whatever we can bring to the table, we're always happy to just kind of put a hand in there and just take it to the next level. We're in 2023, and we hope by end of this year we see more countries come on board, and let's make it happen and switch the habit.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all in agreement. I think we're doing a lot of good things in the sector. Could we be doing a lot more? Yeah, 100%. We know that. And again, it's about getting that balance between marketing and products and flavors, and that, and not going into the youth and everything else. Folks, thanks very much. That's the end of our session. I'd like to thank the panel: Michael Shaw, founder and managing director of Vape TV; Saeem Yazin, the director of marketing digital for Philip Morris; and then Sal Yunus, the global sales manager for Vigo. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks, folks.